2 weeks ago, the Milwaukee Bucks lost in Toronto in an embarrassing fashion. Thankfully for the Bucks, that was not the case during Wednesday night's rematch, even without Giannis Antetokounmpo playing. Powered by a dynamic offensive performance from their starting backcourt, the Bucks secured the biggest win of the young season, defeating the Raptors 128 to 112. We're going to break down all of the action from tonight's win, plus more, on today's episode of Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Truly do appreciate you tuning in, and thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first watch or first listen of the day. I'm your host, Camille Davis, and you can catch me weekly on the Technical Foul podcast, as well as Cheesehead TV's Carry the G and MKE. Joining me is the founder of BrewHoop.com and longtime voice of the pod, Frank Madden. And today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Now, tonight, the Bucks got some revenge in Toronto, and taking a look just at the numbers and how it got done, it's an interesting story tonight. So the Milwaukee Bucks shot the crap out of the ball this evening. They shot 52% from the field. They were 20 of 39 from three, so over 50% from the three-point line, and that was powered in large part by the efforts of Malik Beasley and Damian Lillard. That they lost the free throw battle tonight, but they got there at a pretty good rate and converted at a very high clip, converting 20 out of 21 of those. They lost the rebounding battle as well as the points in the paint battle, but when you shoot the ball that well, it can overcome quite a few things. And looking at this game, the Raptors didn't look the same as they did 2 weeks ago. No OG, no Gary Trent, among some others, but neither did the Bucks. We had no Giannis tonight, and as mentioned, no Jay Crowder, with him dealing with his injury that's putting him out for at least 2 months. Andre Jackson Jr., Ajax, started in place of Giannis tonight. Toronto led pretty early, 8-2, but then the Bucks replied with a 17-0 run and never trailed in the game again. The Bucks led 36-21 after one quarter and 70-47 at the half. And as I mentioned, Dame and Malik Beasley completely showed out tonight in Toronto. The Bucks backcourt accounted for more than half of the Bucks' 128 points tonight. They had 67 points between the two of them, with Dame dropping 37 plus 12 assists, his first double-double of the season, and Malik going crazy with 30 points tonight in a season high, 8 made threes. That backcourt, it's been a lot of discussion around him about that defense, and tonight the offense was really speaking for him. In addition to that, we saw Chris Middleton play a really crucial role for the team in the fourth quarter with Dame on the bench and Toronto trying to make another crazy run, and we saw that they can do it. They did it to Washington earlier this week. The Bucks chose to run their offense through Chris. He had a timely mid-range jumper. Then he assisted on the next 3 baskets to get the lead back up to 20 with a little bit over 3 minutes to play. Brook Lopez had a near triple-double tonight, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 7 blocks. And I think the defense looked a little bit sharper tonight, although there is still room for improvement. So, Frank, what were some of your biggest takeaways from tonight's revenge win in Toronto?
I mean, it's nice to just finally have a really good, and again, yes, they obviously had the lead eaten into in the fourth quarter, but that was 48 minutes.
Yeah,
close enough of good, but really good basketball, right? And we've been waiting for that, right? When are the Bucks going to play a really good game of basketball? And I gotta say, we've had obviously some Dame closing time, sensational moments, doing what he did against Philly, the comeback against Detroit. We've had some fun Dame moments, but I mean, that was like the Dame Lillard experience,
yeah.
right? Only played 30 minutes at the end of the day, barely played in the fourth quarter. It looked like Adrian Griffin was kind of just content to just see if they could go maybe the whole fourth quarter without even needing him. And then he came back kind of very late, but really by that point they had figured it out. And the very long distance 3-point shooting, finally, that soul crushing 3-point bombing that he's capable of. Man, it is fun to watch when he's doing it for your team, isn't it?
Yes.
That's so fun to watch. getting to the rim against that pick and roll defense, getting to the edge, and getting the rim against mainly Jakob Poeltl, as we like to call it. I went back and watched Camille. One of my friends actually asked me, was like, how do they pronounce that name again? And I went and watched a German interview, Austrian TV interview, and that's how they pronounce it, Poeltl. Not
Could have told them to
Pirtle.
listen to Locked On Bucks. They would have
Yeah.
gotten it from hearing you say it.
Yeah, not Pirtle. Sorry, Jakob. The free throws, I mean, again, getting the free throw line just all day long. And then the part that really we have not seen, the next kind of unlocking of Dame Lillard that we thought was in there, but we really had not seen, was the passing.
Yes.
And the assist numbers tonight were really big. We have 12 or 13 assists.
13, yeah.
But it wasn't just like, one, kick out to the wing and hit a contested three, right? I mean, obviously there were a lot of 3-pointers that were made off of his passes, but some of those passes, whirling kind of one hand whip cross court passes, driving to the basket, contorting his body, finding guys in the corner for good looks at threes. And he had that pass in the first half to Bobby Portis where he was being defended at the top of the arc, and Bobby's like going along the baseline and just a bullet pass kind of between multiple defenders. That's the kind of stuff we've been waiting to see as a playmaker from him as well. So to see both the shooting, the foul drawing, the getting to the rim and finishing, and to see the passing and playmaking, that was like, to me, kind of the complete Dame offensive experience. And this was the Milwaukee Blazers, basically, right? It was Damian Lillard, an offense unto himself, the guy that, the last decade or whatever, especially the last few years, had developed into a guy that is just a walking offense, a walking top 5 offense. That's what he did for the Bucks tonight. And, obviously we want to get to the point of seeing him and Giannis and Chris together being this dynamic, unstoppable offense. But on a night like tonight, you needed Dame to be Dame, because we couldn't just say, hey, Giannis, go take over. They've been extremely reliant on Giannis. The on-off numbers are really crooked right now in terms of they are, very good when Giannis is on the floor and completely fall apart when he's off the floor. So for Dame, whose numbers have been the opposite, and ironically, the problem has been the offense. The Bucks defense has been better with Dame on the floor than off it.
Surprising.
But it's the offense. Yeah, it's the offense that has been really poor. And obviously there's kind of random stuff, weird shooting luck, things like that, including Dame's own shooting that has obviously been a problem. But tonight we got to see, Adrian Griffin in the Lori Nichols article in Journal Sentinel yesterday was talking about almost like there's a little cloud following them around sometimes, it feels like, which
the dark cloud.
Again, it's like, don't talk about that, Adrian. Okay. Like, yes, there's a lot of talk on Twitter, and I'm talking about it on Twitter too, because it's out there.
It's the conversation.
It's the conversation, and we're looking for reasons to feel good about the Bucks and the coaching staff. And obviously there have been challenges, but tonight you had to feel great about it, especially seeing the way they responded, having lost that game the way they did a couple weeks back. And again, it's like, you had a huge shooting variance in this game. The Bucks were plus 33 from 3-point line. So, you don't want to act like there wasn't a little bit of kind of outlier things happening, but
Right.
at the end of the day, like, the point of basketball is to make shots. So if you make shots and the other team doesn't make shots, you deserve to win, right? Like that's kind of how it goes. And I like to think about kind of the shooting variance and mean reversion a lot of times more in the context within a game. Like, you got out to a big lead, can you hold it, right? And in this case, the Bucks got out to a nice lead in the first quarter, and they had a 3-point. I think they were plus 9 from the 3-point line in the first quarter. And I was like, all right, this is gonna hold. This is gonna hold. It held.
Thankfully.
It very much held. And I mean, you had to feel good when Malik Beasley hit that banked 3-pointer at the halftime buzzer. I mean, he smiled for must have had a shit-eating grin on his face for 5 minutes. Like, he was just so tickled that he hit that shot. It was great. I love to see it. He's obviously a guy that we've talked about having, been put in a position where he's not always set up to succeed, and doesn't necessarily get as many shots normally with that starting 5, has been asked way too much of him defensively. But tonight, just like he loves shooting in Toronto, man. He was what 6 of 9 3-point shooting last time they were in
Yeah.
Toronto. The only bright spot tonight, he was one of a number of bright spots. So yeah, Dame getting right. We knew that was going to happen at some point. Hopefully, this is a harbinger of him getting loose and going into a sustained period of just being Dame. And Beasley was really good. And again, I just thought beyond the shooting, it just felt like, again, maybe the Bucks had some luck tonight, but felt like they were creating a lot of their own luck, especially in the first, 2-3 quarters. Felt like they were always the first ones to the ball. It felt like they were pushing the pace.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like the physicality of the game, they were dictating a lot of that. And defensively, it felt like, the half court numbers. I think Toronto's first shot efficiency in the half court was 79 points per play. That's great for the Bucks.
Yeah.
Downside, way too many offensive rebounds yet again. But okay, fine. We'll take that one issue on a night like this when pretty much everything went right. And again, you just feel good for this whole team. You feel good for Adrian Griffin and the coaching staff. And we'll see, right? We'll see how this translates. If you go in and lay an egg in Charlotte on Friday, or then okay, that's kind of one step forward, one step back. But hopefully, this was them getting over some of the grind of what's been a kind of a weird first 10 games of the season. Now, game number 11, hopefully, maybe turning the page a little bit.
Absolutely. And you mentioned how outstanding it was to see Dame looking like Dame. And the part that really stood out to me was his ability to continuously split double teams. And it was just fantastic to watch his screen navigation over and over and over again, because he was able to create his own shot out of that. Absolutely. By being able to get some shots at the rim, whether that was going to be a made layup or getting fouled and heading to the free throw line. But in addition to that, him being able to cause that havoc by splitting the doubles and the pick and roll over and over, was able to get a lot of open shots for his teammates as well. Excuse me. And I know Malik Beasley scored a couple of those threes off of Dame being able to just penetrate that Toronto defense so well. So that was super cool to see. And we spent a lot of time so far talking about the starters tonight for the Milwaukee Bucks. And I do want to show some love to the bench and kind of dig into their performance as well. But first, I want to talk about our friends over at FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. And you guys know I say it often. Hey, the Packers might have lost last week, but that does not mean that should stop you from checking out FanDuel and some options available to you when it comes to making bets, because the app is just so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And in that and more part, it includes one of my favorite things, the Parlay Hub, which puts together a couple different lines for you to put your money down on. So make sure you visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. Again, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season right. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to the Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. That Locked On Network, we're doing some big things out here. You love to see it. So make sure that you all go and subscribe to that as well. And as I mentioned, want to talk about the bench a little bit here, because the Bucks had 6 guys in total tonight scoring double figures, which was really cool to see. The bench put up 40 points. Most of that came from Bobby and Cam. Bobby dropped 18 tonight and Cam had 13. Pat Connaughton didn't really light up the scoreboard. I believe he only had 3 points tonight, but he had 7 boards and was able to make an impact on the game with his hustle on defense. And we got some Thanasis minutes, not just in the fourth quarter with the game out of reach. Like, we got some actually pretty decent Thanasis minutes. He played some good defense, had 2 offensive rebounds that led to second chance opportunities for the Bucks. It was kind of cool to see him come out there and play some defense, although there were some lowlights. I don't want to speak too much about the missed lob opportunity that he had. We want to focus on the positives here from Thanasis tonight.
Did Dame throw that? Who threw that lot?
Yes,
Was
he
that
did. Dame did throw it.
that was okay. So that was yet another example of Dame finally feeling like he's throwing passes. By the way, the other thing I forgot to mention the other night, he had a pass over the top to Giannis. You know how Giannis, like Chris is great at this, Drew got good at this, where like Giannis goes into like a post up and then he kind of like gets behind the defender and seals him, and then they just throw it over the top to him. Dame had one of those passes the other night, and I think he got fouled on it, but it was kind of like, okay, Dame, you're understanding what Giannis can do. You just throw it up there for him, man. Like just put it out there.
Like the wingspan is massive. Just try to get it up there to him and let him come down with it and work. But Frank, I do want to get your opinion on how the Bucks bench and rotations looked. I mean, we mentioned already there was no Giannis tonight. Jay Crowder is going to be out for the next 2 months. And then MarJon even got injured during the second quarter with an ankle injury. At this point, unsure the severity of it. But MarJon was on Instagram apparently at halftime commenting on a injury post about himself, saying like, "I'll be all right, no worries." So hopefully that's some good news. But what did you take away from the bench and rotation tonight?
Well, first off, Camille, I never trust players when they say that they're okay after injuries. Giannis is like probably the best example. Giannis will like never admit that he's injured at all. Like his leg could have fallen off, and he'll be like, "I feel great," yeah, fine. And I'm also thinking back to you as a Packer fan. Probably remember Aaron Jones, week 1, has the amazing game. After the game, he's like, "Oh, I'm fine. I'll be fine." And then what did he miss? Like 2-3 weeks or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so I'm crossing my fingers for MarJon. Unfortunately, Giannis' Wolverine healing factor does not carry over to. I don't know if he's able to give that to other teammates, but hopefully, it didn't look like a bad ankle turn with MarJon. Like he didn't like step on a foot. It was just like a weird plant and just like a super like real quick flip over. And then hopefully it was more just precautionary. Like, hey, like why run him back out there when they were winning the game the way they did? So. But again, I mean, it's such a weird situation, right? I mean, I think in previous years, I couldn't be that mad with Bud not playing young guys because it didn't feel like they were adding value. But again, with this team and the need they have for athleticism and physicality defensively, and especially now with Dame and again him being such a just offense unto himself. I love the fact that Griffin threw Andre Jackson into the starting 5, right? I mean, I'd be interested to know if that could work with the real starters, right? With Giannis in there as well. I think that's probably the big question is can you get away with that when you also have Giannis not being a floor spacer and needing room to operate? And again, once Andre Jackson, starts a game or two, it actually plays real minutes, then he gets on the scouting report, and then teams will be like, oh, okay, like we're just not going to guard you, right? And unfortunately, we saw again today, he scores no points. He like had a couple plays where it's like, dude, you just go up and lay it in or dunk it or something, right? And he just throws it, is like throws it back out for a teammate at 3-point line. It's like, okay, we enjoy the unselfishness, but dude, just
get a bucket.
Freaking get a bucket. Like you don't have to go full Ben Simmons in the playoffs against Atlanta, on us here. But I'm sorry, that's cruel. I can't invoke a Ben Simmons against the Hawks reference for our boy Ajax. Yeah, it'll be interesting, exactly kind of what it looks like from a rotation standpoint moving forward. I think again, you hope that Jay Crowder is the only guy that is going to be out and over the next period with any consistency. I think Giannis missing the game with the calf. He was probable last night, and then he goes to out today. So I'm gonna be an optimist and interpret that as the Bucks medical staff saying, he hadn't missed a game yet. We got a really important in-season tournament game on Friday.
Gotta win on Friday.
And maybe them just kind of looking at it and saying, look, let's play the long game. Like, let's not push it at all. Just give him another couple of days off. And that, he'll be right as rain on Friday. Certainly that was another reason why it was nice to see Dame just dominate the way he did and get to the rim and get wherever he wanted, because after last game coming off that calf injury, it was kind of like, yeah, maybe it's the calf is he's still feeling that calf a little bit. So the fact that he played regular minutes last game too, so I thought that was encouraging. With Chris now, I just like have this like concern that every time a Bucks player gets injured and then comes back, like they're going to be on this like weird minutes restriction for extended periods. But but thankfully Dame appears to be doing just fine, and and now it's just hopefully cross fingers and just get to a consistent point of performing at a high level night in and night out, right? Being Dame. So we'll see. But yeah, I think otherwise rotation wise, I think Andre playing. It's sort of one thing. Without Giannis, obviously you lose, your best overall impact defender. But Andre does sort of different stuff, and because he is that kind of more malleable wing defender, he does bring kind of a different look with Malik and Dame out there. But I don't know. For whatever reason, it did feel like those guys stayed better connected, going over screens and defensively tonight. I don't know. It just felt like anything, I'd hate to kind of just go back to the hashtag energy and effort, Jason Kidd cliche, but some nights that's just what it feels like, right? And all the ball finds energy cliches, right? It's just kind of what it felt like tonight. Just things went right, and when guys see the ball go in the hoop a bit, it has a lot of positive effects, right? You can't run off of made field goals the same way that you can off misses. The Raptors had some success running off misses tonight, but man, when you're shooting the way you saw the Bucks shoot tonight, just makes it a lot harder for the other team to make a run to really get their own offense going. And I gotta say, Dennis Schroeder feels like Dennis Schroeder feels like he's been a Bucks killer for a long time. Minus 29 tonight, 9 points, 5 assists, 2 for 9 from the field. That was refreshing to see. I enjoyed that. And really, other than the Scotty Barnes, Jakob Peltel, really a couple great German names on the Raptors. Aside from that kind of two-man game that really gave the Bucks problems, I feel like that was where most of that huge points in the paint advantage came from. It felt like the Bucks actually defended pretty well, even though the kind of final stats, the defensive rating actually wasn't all that great. 26 offensive rebounds. Jesus Christ.
Too many giving up.
26. Can you imagine if they lost a game giving up 26? I don't know that I'm just looking at this freaking number in the box score. I don't know that I've ever seen, I can't remember seeing 26 goddamn offensive rebounds. That's just absurd. Anyway, whatever. I'm okay.
We mentioned the fact that maybe the shooting that we got from the Bucks tonight is unsustainable, but I do want to kind of take a look into what the Bucks did tonight and what could have been sustainable, because we've mentioned how comfortable Dame looked tonight. And one thing that was really interesting to me about that was his usage rate this evening. And I want to dive into that a little bit more, as well as kind of have some takeaways about what could be sustainable from the Bucks going forward that they can continue to build off of after I talk to you all about our friends from Jace Medical. Now, the everydayers know we spend so much time talking. We get fired up after wins, like tonight, getting some revenge in Toronto after we got embarrassed. And we also get fired up after losses. We saw that all over Bucks Twitter. I'm thankful for the connection that we have. And today I want our chat to get a little bit more personal. I recently learned that you can get a 1-year supply on ED medications, and I hope you realize what that means. You can bring on extended travel, the next natural disaster, even supply chain issues, because you're going to be covered and you won't have to worry about whether or not you can refill your generics for Cialis or Viagra. And this is all possible because of our friends at Jace Medical. So make sure you go online right now at jacemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember to use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. A verified customer had this to say about Jace. I'm thankful for this service. Supply chain issues caused me to cut pills and have to have it. I ordered most of my daily meds with a year's supply. I also ordered an antibiotic kit and I feel secure now. Prices are lower than local pharmacies, and I highly recommend this for everyone. So if you or someone you love would like to get a peace of mind by having a year's supply of any daily medication, go to jacemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. Remember to use the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your purchase. All right. And as
I
mentioned,
mean, Camille, if you're a Bucks fan and you need a prescription, I think watching Dame Lillard go to work is all you need tonight. So,
another form of
Can
medication.
Jace Medical put that in a bottle? They'll make a lot of money if they
If
can.
you can bottle up Dame time, I'm sure a lot of people are going to try to get on board with that one. But speaking of Dame, I mentioned he looked very comfortable tonight. And his usage rate has been something really interesting to me because this is a melding of two alpha dogs coming together on this Milwaukee Bucks team. Dame has historically had a pretty high usage rate, as well as Giannis, and we all know that. And tonight, with Giannis being out, Dame just said, I have to be aggressive. And you really saw that. It was his highest usage rate of the season, 42.3. Over the previous played 8 games, his usage rate was about 25.7. So that's something that I can understand. Going forward, when Giannis is back in the rotation, the usage rate probably won't be as high, but I do have questions around how, when they do stagger their minutes, if Dame can bring that same level of aggression, as well as wondering when they play together, how they're going to be able to meld in a little bit better. So it doesn't seem as much as like my turn, your turn, or I'm watching you get off, or whatever the case may be. And also thinking about sustainability, our good friend Justin Garcia, also from Locked On Bucks, as well as the Bucks Radio Network, he posted after the game. That's a very, very small sample size, but since the Knicks game in Milwaukee on the 3rd of November, here are the Bucks rankings. Offensive rating, they're 10th with 116.7. Defensive rating, they're 14th, 114. And their net rating is finally positive, 2.7. And that's good for 10th in the league over that time span. So, Frank, with the last 5 minutes or so that we have here, I want to throw it to you and get your opinions about what is sustainable that we saw from this Bucks win that we can look for them to carry forward.
I mean, it's a little sobering, right? That like hey, things are going
Hey,
in the right direction.
positive.
It's like you're 10th and 14th and 10th or something, and never. It's like, that doesn't feel like it's really that impressive.
Trending,
uh,
Frank, trending.
yeah, trending. I mean, tonight everything was trending in the right direction. Um, I mean, I think the offense. I mean, I was never I could never get too worried about the offense. I think watching tonight's game, we saw lots of that, the V double high, pick and roll.
Mhm.
Um, it was Dame centric, but we saw how it being Dame centric also created opportunities for other guys, right? With all the assists and the playmaking. And Toronto, I think it was interesting. I think it was in this second quarter maybe where Dennis Schroeder decided that he was going to basically pressure full court, and the Bucks, had a nice lead at that point. But at first I was like, oh man, he's really up in Dame's shit on this, right? Like literally like ball denying, like it was like, oh, can we even get Dame the ball? Um, but after like he did that for like a minute, it's like, okay, guys can't do that for too long. And they figured it out, and he didn't Schroeder didn't play well, and Dame obviously kind of figured it out, drew a foul. He's a savvy guy. I mean, Dame just knows how to kind of manage this. This is not the first time someone's tried to ball deny him, 94 feet from the basket or whatever it might be. So I thought that was good. And then, the Bucks did get thrown a little bit by the zone defense, a little dose of their own medicine. Using that kind of zone with two guys at the top to basically force Dame to give
Mhm.
up the ball. As always, like NBA offenses always like have struggled with like the first couple minutes of adapting to that. I thought Chris playing from the wing when he was in the game, was kind of really important again, just because of his passing and playmaking. And you just Chris was kind of like, oh, you need me to make a couple baskets? Okay, fine. All right.
I
Dribble,
got you.
dribble, dribble, mid-ranger, money. So I think the offense though, I mean, they're too talented to not score a shitload of points, and they should be able to do it very efficiently. And we've already seen, obviously, with Dame that they have an ability to create, looks and basically get it done in crunch time. So that's obviously what we're all hoping for in the playoffs, and that those things kind of come together. Uh, but I do think it's been weird. I mean, maybe not so much. Probably in the first few games, it just seemed odd how much Dame was just sort of standing on the left wing, like
Mhm.
watching. And that's not Damian Lillard's game. And so I agree. I don't know what the exact kind of balance is going to look like as far as getting out of the my turn, your turn stuff. I think in a way it's been encouraging that they are so capable. Like, I mean, the Giannis lineups without Dame have looked really good. And I think especially when he's playing with Chris, they're going to continue to look good. So, I mean, the good news is that like, as long as you have, Giannis and ideally Chris and Dame, maybe Dame and Brooke, you should be able to really withstand kind of stretches of not being able to score. So I think that's something I feel good about. I think this is sustainable. Defensively, I just don't know. I just don't know where to put this team. Like the defensive rebounding just seems to be getting kind of worse and worse. And it doesn't seem like even when they win games, it's like weirdly a problem, and they just sort of overcome it. So that's a bit odd. And again, compared to where they were last year, I mean, does swapping Dame for Drew Holiday may mean that you no longer can get defensive rebounds? Like, I mean, I don't think it's gonna help, but it shouldn't dramatically throw off your ability to defensive rebound. So I think that just has to become a bigger point of emphasis. And so, we'll see. Transition stuff wasn't as big of a problem tonight, but to me, it's like, man, you guys got to solve rebounding and the transition stuff. And to me, so much of that is just like tactics, mindset. Like, what are you trying to do, right? Are you trying to leak out? Are you gambling on defense for the rebounding? As far as the transition stuff, like, are you sending too many guys to crash the glass? Although the Bucks sent guys to crash the glass last year too, and they were better at it. Like, they're not even good at offensive rebounding right now. And they're getting killed in transition. But the transition numbers have come down. I mean, they were horrendous to start the year. They've come back down to much more normal levels. Still not good, but at least there's some movement there. So yeah, I mean, at this point, the stat should be pointed out, right? With the big three, they're 5-1. I guess you can't count this game, so they
Nope.
still haven't had like an impressive game with
It's
all
coming
those guys together.
I feel it.
But I think Friday, we know the Bucks always step up their game when it's an in-season tournament Friday night game. Camille, this is what these guys live for: the in-season tournament. Everybody grew up playing in their driveways, dreaming of hitting game-winning shots in an in-season tournament game. And so hopefully they can kind of put things together. But anyway, it's the biggest night of the year, Camille. Charlotte,
listen.
Milwaukee in-season tournament. Let's do this. Let's see what kind of gross court Charlotte can break out.
Hey, $500,000 can be quite motivating to a lot of players. I think that's what we've been seeing so far with the in-season tournament games. But like you mentioned, they definitely have to get some things together as they continue working. But tonight, let's celebrate the fact that the Bucks had a pretty commanding win, and let's celebrate your Wi-Fi tonight, because there was no freeze frame Frank, and that is another win.
I think I dropped while you were talking for 5 seconds. So I ducked out. I didn't hear you for a second, and then I came back. So even the Wi-Fi gods were on our side tonight. So really, just what can you complain about?
Yeah, we're going to wrap up and look to get out of here. But as a reminder, make sure that you checked out Locked On Sports, the YouTube page. As a reminder, it is the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So make sure that you guys go and subscribe to that, as well as subscribe to the Locked On Bucks YouTube page if you haven't already. If you have, like the videos, drop a comment, rate and review wherever you can on the audio platform as well. For Frank and myself, we're going to get out of here. We hope you all have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.